Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter Rise, and today we're going to be talking about the glorious Gunlance, the GG, the Blast Dash Supreme, the best weapon in Monster Hunter, and my currently preferred playstyle with it. I know that some of you are still waiting on my next weapon guides, and I've had to delay those on account of the fact that we just had update 2.0, and I've actually been playing the game to have fun as opposed to spending most of the time in the training room. I've been going out and grinding materials to update all of the builds that I had previously made before this update, because 2.0 has rendered a lot of my builds obsolete with all of the new decorations, the new armor pieces, and etc, etc. A lot of the stuff that I had previously done just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But naturally, I wanted to start things off by sharing with you my current Gunlance build, and this is going to be a bit of a weird one because it's a Hail Cutter build. And I know some of you guys are going to go like, but Rurikhan, you told us that Ground Splitter is better than Hail Cutter in so many different ways, and I still agree with that. I still think that Ground Splitter is the way to go if you want to be efficient with a Gunlance and if you want to get the fastest clear times or deal the most possible damage. I think that Ground Splitter is definitely the way to go. But having said that, before the update went live, I was working on a Hail Cutter build, and I just started having so much fun with it that I've had a hard time going back to Ground Splitter, because Ground Splitter is more efficient and it'll probably get you faster times, I think. But Hail Cutter is just so much fun with the way that I use it, and it gives me so much mobility and lets me basically just fire the Gunlance like relentlessly that I just find that to be too much fun to kind of give up right now. And considering that there's not really that much in the way of challenge in Monster Hunter Rise right now, sure, there's a couple of fights that are a little bit more challenging than others, but ultimately I still don't think that we're anywhere near the degree of difficulty of like Iceborne. I know Iceborne's like Master Rank, G Rank, whatever you want to call it, but I feel like even previous Monster Hunter games were a little bit more challenging. But anyways, that's kind of like a topic for a different conversation. Let's go back to this build. And here's the interesting thing. With this build, you can basically swap out Hail Cutter for Ground Splitter, and you'll have pretty much the same results. Although I would probably advise you guys to go for a Shelling level 5 Gunlance if you go for a Ground Splitter, because you'll get more advantage of it. Whereas the way that I'm playing, I'm basically using a lot of Gunlances that were sitting unused in my item box on account of the fact that they didn't have max shelling. And the reasoning behind that is because I feel like I'm actually dishing out enough melee damage, and more importantly even elemental damage, to make up for the fact that shelling is not maxed out. As a matter of fact, I'm getting this theory that I'm not 100% sure if that is the case or not, but I'm getting this feeling ever since I started playing like this that elemental damage appears to flinch monsters more often if you align the elements correctly. So like if you're fighting maybe a Kushala Daora with a lightning Gunlance, thunder Gunlance I mean, I kind of feel like I get more flinches than if I'm using a non-elemental weapon. But again, this could be wrong. This could be like bias on account of the fact that I really like this build. But let me know if you guys have experienced that, if you guys are playing elemental weapons at all. Let me know if you've been experiencing that, because I kind of feel like that has definitely been the case. But anyway, let's talk about weapons. And like I said, I tend to swap depending on what element the monster is weakest to. So if the monster is weakest to thunder, I'm going to bring out the mythic Kadachi Striker from Tobi Kadachi. If he's weakest to fire, I'm going to bring out the Crimson Rook from Rathalos. If he is weakest to water, I'm going to bring out the Mizumori from Mizutsune. If he is weakest to ice, I'm going to bring out the Ice Steel Gunlance from Kushala. And if he is weakest to dragon, then I'm going to bring out my custom Rampage Gunlance, because there are no good long shelling dragon Gunlances in the game at the moment. And I do want that long shelling because, like I said, I want to take full advantage of the additional damage in Wyvern Fire. So these are my choices, but obviously you can still bring Howitzer or literally any Gunlance that you want, because the build is pretty much independent of the Gunlance that you bring. As long as it's a Gunlance, you can use whichever one you want, and it's probably going to work. You just have to switch skills to make sense for the playstyle that you're going for. But I'll tell you guys which switch skills I use to get this particular playstyle. But anyway, let's talk about armor. And obviously we start things off with Basil Goose's helm. And I know that there's some discrepancies in how people want to pronounce Basil Goose. Some people are saying it's Basil Juice, it's Basil Geese, I don't care. Okay, I'm gonna call it Basil Goose. If you have a problem with that, it's too bad. Deal with it. or don't deal with it. Anyway, the Basil Goose Helm. Then we have the Almudron Mail S, because the Basil Goose armor, the chest piece, is actually the one that I think is the least valuable. It gives you like 1 point in agitator, 2 points in guard up. If you want to have full guard up, go for it. But like, I've been blocking the hardest hitting things in this game with only 1 point of guard up, and I feel fine. I don't think I need any more guard up. As a matter of fact, there's not even that many abilities in the game that actually require you to have guard up to begin with. So I think that 1 point in guard up is more than enough. But you know, to each their own. If you want to have more guard up, then go ahead, do what you want. But this build, this is what we're running with. Then we got Basil Goose's Bracers, Basil Goose's Coil, and Basil Goose Greaves. We're using the Demon Petalace because even though there are new Petalaces, I just kind of want to get as much attack as possible to make up for the fact that a lot of these Gunlances don't really have max shelling. Remember that? So I'm trying to squeeze as much as I can out of my melee damage. So I go for the Demon Petalace. The other Petalaces give you attack slower, but they can, you know, they can be better. It all depends on your playstyle. In terms of charm, you're looking at an Evade Extender 2 charm with, right now I have a tier 3 slot, but so long as you have a tier 2 slot, you will be fine. Just have, you know, an Evade Extender charm with at least Evade Extender 2. I believe that Evade Extender can go all the way up to 3. So if you have one of those, even better. You can just put that on. But for this build, we were lucky enough to have one with Evade Extender 2 and Stun Resistance 2, which allowed me to also get stun immunity, which is really, really, really damn good. Now let's talk about them decos, shall we? So if you are running the Kodachi Striker like I am right now, I put in the Destroyer Jewel, but like I said, you can put whatever weapon you want in there, so this particular decoration not super important. Then on the Basil Goose Helm, we're going to be putting a Razor decoration because I want to max out Razor Sharp on account of the fact that we're shelling a lot. You guys will see in the gameplay we're shelling a lot, despite the fact that we're also dealing melee damage, we're also shelling. On the Almudron Mail, we're going to put the Steadfast Jewel. We're going to get max stun resist because this playstyle is very dangerous and you might be getting hit often. I definitely get hit often, and this way you're not going to get stunned. Then we have on the Basil Goose Bracers 2 Challenger Jewels, on the Coil another 2 Challenger Jewel, and on the Greaves another Challenger Jewel. We're maxing out Agitator. Why? Because we don't have that much affinity to begin with in this build, so we're just going to max out Agitator and try to get attack as well as affinity. Now, you can sacrifice 1 point of Evade Extender and go for like Weakness Exploit and critical boost if that is what you want. But I've tested it. In my opinion, I think Challenger is better because there are several situations when you are flying the way that I'm doing with this build. You don't always get to hit exactly where you want, so you might not always be getting the full benefit of Weakness Exploit. Not to mention that you know, one of the advantages of the Gunlance is that I can just hit whatever the hell I want and still keep shelling and still deal damage. So I don't want to be dependent on hitting weak spots with this build. But, you know, to each their own. Basically, the Challenger decos, you can put whatever the hell you want in there to begin with, because you already have most of the stuff that gives you damage from shelling. So it really is up to you. Anyway, once you put all of this together, you're looking at Agitator level 5, Razor Sharp level 3, Guard level 3, Artillery level 3, Evade Extender level 3, Stun Resistance level 3, Load Shells level 2. We have 1 point in Power Prolonger. We really don't need that, but, you know, we have 1 point in Guard Up and 1 point in Part Breaker just in this version of the build. And if I use any other weapon, I don't get Part Breaker. I could get Part Breaker like if I use... if you use any weapon that has a tier 2, then I'll get Part Breaker because, you know, that's just what I prefer to have. But like I said, to each their own, you can customize this. Ultimately, this is always meant to just be a template for you guys to look at and kind of figure out what you want to do. But now I wanted to talk a little bit more about the playstyle because I've been getting this question a lot whenever I stream, which is people asking me, how do you reload mid-air? Because people have gotten so used to Ground Splitter that they don't even realize that you can do Hail Cutter from the middle of the air. So the thing is, whenever you blast dash in a certain direction, you can stop that blast dash in a number of ways. You can press X to bring down and slam into the monster's face, or you can wait until you actually land the blast dash to get maximum distance, or you can press A and it shells in the air. So if you want to perform a mid-air Hail Cutter from a blast dash, what you do is you blast dash, And before, you land on the ground, you press A once, he's going to shell, and then from there you go ZL and X, and that is going to cause you to hail cutter in the air, thus reloading all of your ammo, and then you can blast all those shells with a full burst at the end of the move, which is really, really good because on top of it, you're also reducing the cooldown on your Wyvern Fire, and you can, do as many Wyvern Fires as possible. A couple of things to keep in mind is I would try to keep Wyvern Fire on cooldown as often as I possibly can, and you'll notice that a lot of times I'll just, get out a Blast Dash and spam shells on the monster. Why? Because why not? You're basically shelling, and you're kind of like relatively safe if you're still in the air, because most monster attacks, they deal damage on the ground. So long as you're aware which monster attacks have like the more punishing hitboxes in the air, you should be fine. Another important thing is you should avoid blast dashing directly forward into the monster's face. I will probably do that a couple of times in this video because I'm a suicidal maniac. But, you should avoid blast dashing directly to the monster's face because you can't just be blast dashing straight into an attack, which is why most times I like blast dash at an angle and then use a second blast dash to correct the direction and go towards the monster. So you end up doing like, I'm going to go slightly left and then I'll course correct and go slightly right. So you do an angled approach to the monster and kind of avoid that frontal area, which is very, very deadly for you to just blast dash into. Now, there are two ways of doing blast dash, repeating blast dash, that is. Now, the first way is just holding down A, and then while you're mid-air, hold down A again, and, you get another blast dash. But that one is a little bit delayed, but it has its advantages. And the advantage is you can use that one to hover a little bit above the air before you land your blast dash. If you want, if you're not in a position where you can just blast dash repeatedly and you're trying to get as much distance as possible out of your blast dash, then what you want to do is you blast dash, and then right before you hit the ground, you hold A again, and you'll see that your character kind of hovers a little bit, and then he does another blast dash. And then, again, do it again, and you'll do like 3 blast dashes, and you'll cover a lot of distance while hovering slightly above the ground. You just have to practice a little bit on the timing on that. On the other hand, if you want very quick adjustments, then you want to block and press A, because that is just going to give you like super fast blast dash, boom, boom, boom. And most of the time, if you're in the middle of the air, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold ZR and A, but if I'm trying to get distance on the blast dash and I want to get more distance, then I'll hold ZA when I'm close. I'll hold A when I'm close to the ground to get that additional boost from blast dash. But yeah, those are just some of the tips as to how to play this, but ultimately it's pretty self-explanatory. Just get out there, Wyvern Fire, blast dash, hail cutter, and have a blast. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy this video, hit the dislike button. Feedback is important. See you guys on the next one. Stay strong, stay safe, peace out.